So thanks for joining us. And today we're going to learn all about making accessible education materials. So we really want to pass the torch to you, all teachers, in fact, to be the lead in developing the UDL mindset. And the reason for that is we really need teachers, administrators, all professionals in the education system, really, and beyond, to be thinking about and considerate of all students in your classrooms and in the design phase of your classroom activities. So we just always like to go through some of the universal design highlights of this presentation. As you know, Google Meet has built-in closed captioning that if you want to activate that, just go to the CC at the bottom of your screen. Also, Google Slide has that incorporated, as does Microsoft 365. We design our presentations with simplicity of the screens in mind. However, we do add images, etc., to engage all viewers. But behind every image will be alt text, so screen readers, individuals who are using devices that like an iPhone, for example, with VoiceOver, built-in accessibility option, will be able to access the information. We verbally describe all slides, and we don't use transitions because that can be very distracting. Sorry. All videos that we show will have closed captioning, and transcripts, of course, of the audio can be provided. Normally we provide the slides ahead of time, so ASL interpreters and other individuals can review the language and prepare for the presentation and provide a really efficient and accurate translation. And we can provide summary to any reader. If an individual is deaf and requires sign language interpretation, we can, really contract ASL interpreter from anywhere, especially in a virtual setting, but also face-to-face. We could run the presentation through Zoom or Google Meet with another video window in the within the presentation. So let's just go quickly. I always like to have people engaged in these activities and presentations. I'd like you to go to grab a mobile device. It's a lot easier to do this with a mobile device, an iPad that you're not viewing the presentation on, and go to, in your web browser, menti.com, and type in the code 26737, and let's just share 2 bits of new knowledge you'd like to take away from this session. Consider lessons using UDL principles, best way to keep everyone engaged, how to develop AIM materials. I like to provide access to all students. How can we fund ASL interpreting? I'm not sure I'll be able to address that, but we could discuss that later. Ideas to support non-readers, online games, transition between homeschooling. Okay, great. And what I'm going to show you today is really applicable to any of the learning environments that we're going to be facing come fall. Okay, so right now, from your past experience, what do you think AIM represents? What does that acronym represent? And not just, reiterating that AEM stands for Accessible Education Materials, but really what it does. I put access for all too, and definitely. So we're providing with AIM strategies and tools, access for all students to your classroom curriculum. So I just want to show you this video. It's about 5 minutes long, and really this is the why of why we need to be implementing universal design and accessible education materials. So sit back and relax and just watch the video.
National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
Okay, class, here is the syllabus and everything you'll need for this semester.
Students pass out materials.
Professor, this is all in Braille. Can I get it in print? I can't read Braille.
Oh, yes, Jim. All of the materials this semester will be available in Braille. They're also available on the website for the class. And there's a computer in the computer lab available to you. And if that isn't going to work for you, you could go to Print Material Services and get that converted for you.
How in the world am I supposed to access the professor's website? This computer is only accessible to someone who knows how to use JAWS without the screen on. I guess I'll call Print Material Services. Yes, hi, I'm in Professor Smith's class. I need to get my materials in print, and he's only got them available in Braille. He said I'd have to go through you to get the print.
Sure, we'll be able to get that for you. Just let me get some information from you.
1 week later.
Hi, yes, I called last week to get print materials for Professor Smith's class. When will those be ready?
Well, it looks like we have the first page done, but we're still waiting on, production of this material. I'm really sorry. It takes a while.
Right, but when will they be ready? I'm starting to fall behind in class.
I'm really sorry to hear that, Han, but, we're doing the best that we can.
2 months later.
Hi, I've been calling once a week for this whole semester. I'm trying to get the materials for Professor Smith's class in print. I really need those materials. The final is my last chance to pull my grade up from a D.
Hi, Jim. We received your request. We're still working on it, and we'll have a response for you in a couple of weeks. Thanks. Bye.
50 years later.
Oh, I wonder what this is. I didn't order anything. It's got my alma mater's name on it. Dear Mr. Brown, enclosed you will find the print materials for Professor Smith's class as requested. Good luck this semester. Oh man, I've got to call Karen. She was so great at helping me out by reading the Braille materials to me all that time. She'll get a kick out of this.
April Fools.
Hello, I'm Mark Riccobono, President of the National Federation of the Blind. In the National Federation of the Blind, we're concerned about the barriers that blind students continue to face in educational settings because of a lack of accessibility. Today, we have the tools and the knowledge to be able to deliver to blind students equal access to materials at the same time as their sighted peers. But unfortunately, in far too many classrooms, whether it be in higher education or K-12, blind students are left to wait, not just for access to printed materials, but also for access to digital content through computers or Chromebooks or iPads or other technologies that are used in the classroom. The good news is that through the National Federation of the Blind, we have a lot of experience with what to do about this. And we continue to want to be partners with educational institutions to ensure equal access for blind students in the classroom. On the other hand, we continue to protect the right of blind students to make sure that that equal access is available when students are being denied. So we have continued to seek relief for blind students in higher education that face systemic barriers in their universities and are denied access by bringing litigation against universities. In some cases, we've been able to find really great partnerships with those universities to make equal access happen. We also work with ebook and technology vendors to make sure that their products are equally accessible, so that when universities or K-12 schools buy them, they're buying a product that is equally accessible to all students. There's still a great need, though, for each of us to get involved in promoting equal access for blind students. And you can help the National Federation of the Blind by supporting our efforts, by making a donation to us, or by signing our petition to support equal access in higher education, in instructional materials, and learn more about the legislative and policy efforts we're undertaking in the National Federation of the Blind to promote equal access in educational materials for all students.
For more information about
Okay, I'd like you to just think about that video, and of course that was a little play on April Fools, but think about and list in the chat box what other students in your classroom would not be able to access the Braille format provided to this student. And I can just monitor the chat box here, and because it's not just students who are blind, visually impaired, we have all sorts of other students that have print barriers. And that's barriers to hard copy, not necessarily Braille. They've just flipped the scenario. So just pop into the chat box. Angela says learners who don't have use of their hands or arms, so those with physical disabilities, cerebral palsy, they can't manipulate the hard copy books that you're, or independently manipulate at all. So keep going. Post in the chat box what other students in your classroom would not be able to access the Braille format. There's a real simple answer to this one. Braille format. Who else? Could you access Braille format if it was given to you in the classroom? Most students. Thank you, Cindy. So there we go. If you hand out Braille for all students to review, only the students who read Braille and are efficient with that mode of reading will be able to access. So that's not unlike your print-based materials, which present many barriers to many different students. So state how you might offer every student in your class, again in the chat box, access to the course material. Thank you, Cindy. Digital with screen readers, audio, etc. So very, very first entry-level step, UDL, etc., and providing, it's making accessible education materials. It's not the only thing we do, but we're going to digitize the text and make sure it's accessible digital text. And I'm going to show you how to do some of that today with the technology that you actually have right in your back pocket. So I want you to be aware that we have in Nova Scotia an accessibility legislation. And beginning in April 1, 2020, municipalities, villages, universities, NSCCs, etc., and provincial libraries were designated as public sector bodies under the Accessibility Act. So this requires them, as it says here, to establish accessibility advisory committees and prepare and implement plans that they put together as a community effort on how they will meet accessibility standards once they're developed. And I sit on the Accessibility Legislation Development Committee for Education, and ours is going to, that legislation is going to be completed in hopefully 2022. Additional organizations will be designated April 1st, 2021. My dog's shaking over here. These include RCEs and CSAP, Nova Scotia Health Authority, and the IWK. So just be aware that we're going to be legislated to provide accessibility to all course content across the province in no matter what level of education we're providing. So this is a really important presentation. So I could go through and walk through all these definitions, etc., but I prefer to provide access to a much more succinct presentation and video. And this describes how to design for accessibility. Oh, sorry.
When something is accessible, it's easy to reach and simple to use. For educational materials to be accessible to as many students as possible, the information needs to be delivered in a variety of ways. In other videos, we explored how print materials can be improved and made accessible. For digital materials, those that are used electronically, we need to look closely at how they're created and what technology is used to deliver them to the user. Some people think that just because materials are digital, they are automatically accessible, but that is definitely not true. Navigating the world of accessible digital learning materials can be challenging, but there are plenty of resources available to help. Welcome to Simply Said, Understanding Accessibility in Digital Learning Materials, inspired by commoncraft.com. To understand how digital materials can be made accessible and usable by people with a wide range of abilities and needs, we should think about two things: the content and how the materials are delivered to the user. The content is the information contained in the digital materials, and it has to be designed from the beginning to be flexible and deliverable in different ways. The delivery system is the technology that a person uses to display and interact with the content. For materials to be accessible, the flexible digital content must work with technologies that are well matched to the abilities and needs of the user. But what happens when technology and content do not work together? For a long time, technology developers have tried to be sure that as many people as possible can use the devices they are developing. There are a variety of technology options available. Some technology is designed for general use, and some for a specific need. There are many features that help make technology accessible, including enlarging text, text-to-speech, keyboard shortcuts, changing font styles and color schemes, navigation options, and more. It's exciting that content developers are creating highly engaging, interactive, dynamic digital content. That's what we all want. But unless that fabulous new content is carefully designed from the beginning, it will not be accessible, and everyone who needs it may not be able to use it. It's up to us to create demand for content that can be used by everyone, so that the publishers and developers will work hard to produce it. There are technical standards that can be used by publishers and web designers to increase accessibility of their products and make content available to more users. That's great for developers and techies, but what do those things mean to the rest of us? Let's take a closer look at WCAG. WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines that have been developed by the WC3 Accessibility Initiative. There are 4 principles that guide the creation of accessible digital content, and developers should be asking themselves these 4 questions along the way. Number 1, is the content perceivable? Number 2, is the content operable? Number 3, is it understandable? And 4, is the content robust? Let's take a closer look at all 4 principles. If the material is perceivable, that means that the user can take the information in a way that works for them, whether it's through sight, sound, or touch. A person may not be able to read with their eyes, but they can read through touch or sound. The term operable relates to how the user navigates their way through the content, the way they interact with the information. For example, a user who is writing could use word prediction or dictation, or an on-screen keyboard. When material is understandable, that means the content is structured in a logical, predictable way that includes learning supports that can be used by everyone. And when learning supports like glossaries, spell checkers, highlighters, sentence starters are designed into digital materials, they can benefit all learners. Finally, we need to think about what makes materials robust. Robust content can be used on many different devices and can interact with many different types of assistive technology. For example, if a material meets the robust standard, a student could read the content both at school and at home using different devices. From the beginning of the design and development process, it has been tested for device and software compatibility. It takes careful attention by writers, developers, and publishers at all stages of design and development to produce digital material that is perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Not all content is created this way, and many digital materials are not developed according to these 4 principles. But the good news is, you can help change that. How can you help increase demand so that more accessible digital materials are available for all users? You can start by learning about the PALM initiative at the National Center on Accessible Instructional Materials. PALM stands for Purchase Accessible Learning Materials. PALM is designed to provide developers, purchasers, and others a way to learn more about the benefits of accessibility and learning materials, the features that increase accessibility, and what we all can do to increase the demand for and availability of accessible digital materials. It's true that we may not understand all the acronyms and jargon the developers use, but now we know a little more about what the 4 WCAG standards of accessibility mean. Everyone can get involved. Anyone can spread the word about accessibility in digital materials. You will definitely want to share this information with the people you know who are responsible for purchasing learning materials. If they know the benefits of accessible materials and what to ask for, they'll be able to work with content developers and publishers to ensure that products they produce are truly accessible. Want to know more? There are plenty of resources available to help. Together, we can and will make a difference. To learn more, click on the PALM logo on the AIM Center's homepage at aim.cast.org. This has been Understanding Accessibility in Digital Learning Materials, brought to you by the Pacer Center, in collaboration with the National Center on Accessible Instructional Materials, where help.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to flip over to this site. I'm going to put the chat box the website in the chat box. Bear with me for a second. I tried to put it in on my Chromebook, but it wouldn't work. So go to aim.cast.org, please. And what I'd like you to do is, let's go to the next slide here. Hold on, I just missed something there. We're going to do a very quick 5-minute scavenger hunt on this website. So this is the site to refer to for developing and learning about accessible education materials. And what I'd like you to do is take 5 minutes, go to the site, the link is in the chat box, and search and locate the working definition of AIM. And by all means, copy paste. I'll give you a hint, go to the AIM Basic tab, because that gives you a really clear definition, and you'll find a little more detail on what AIM actually represents. And also, while you're there, locate and share 3 techniques for ensuring your text are based on, your text is based on materials that are accessible. Okay, so go ahead and do that. I'll put a little timer on and we'll see what people come up with. And if you know the answers, just pop them in the chat box right now. So 5 minutes. I know that's not quite enough. You'll probably want to go back to the site and take a look later. But I definitely would dive into it. They also have online courses in UDL and AIM, developing AIM resources. So search and locate the working definition of AIM and put it in the chat box. Okay, Colleen, thank you. Accessible education materials and technology. That's what I really wanted you to get a hold of, because we're not just talking about materials. The technology needs to be accessible as well. Regardless of format. Thank you very much. Thanks, Cindy. Okay, next question. People can dive into that a little later. 3 techniques for ensuring your text-based materials are accessible. So think POUR. You might want to go to the link that's describing POUR. Add alternate text to images. Yeah. Text that can be read aloud. So text to speech. Awesome. For learners who may have low vision, reading disabilities, etc. Look at, someone found all sorts of information. Closed captioning, absolutely. Styles are used to properly mark up. Yep, thank you. Cindy found the found the poor site. Okay, so there's lots and lots of techniques. I just want to go back to this slide that I missed. Why UDL and AIM? Because we need to realize and appreciate and celebrate the diversity among all our students and ensure that all our materials are accessible to all students, because basically anyone in your audience or your classroom might not be able to see well or at all, hear well or at all, move well or at all, speak well or at all, or understand the information presented in the way that you've designed. So please be aware too, creating accessible documents, the core steps needed for accessibility are the same no matter what format you're designing. So whether it's HTML, Microsoft Word, Pages, Keynote, Google Slides, Adobe PDF, all of these core steps for accessibility are the same. So super quickly, perceivable, some of you mentioned some of these, so learners can hear and see the content, offer alternate text to images, and this is actually beyond step 1, which is digitizing the text into an accessible format, which I'm going to show you in a little bit through OCR scanners. Closed caption video or provide transcripts, color contrast, and make sure content doesn't rely on the color alone. So, so operable across devices. So clear structure, properly marked up headings, create descriptive links that make sense out of context. And I'll show you this because we don't want to just put a whole URL, HTTP URL in any document, because a screen reader will actually read every single letter. So we have to put that URL behind some content that describes the destination of the link. So we need to provide sufficient time for interaction and response and avoid content that can trigger any seizures. View is understandable, so learners can actually understand the content, so all sorts of different students are able to access the information, the language level, etc. So clarify expectations, follow conventions to ensure predictable and consistent experience. Use plain language, very important, and indicate the language of your content. And robust really means how the technology and the information that you're presenting digitally works interoperably with different devices. So for example, if you're designing a web page in Google Sites, you need to be aware that the text that and the images, etc., and your formatting works on your widescreen laptop, but also is easily adjustable if someone picks up the same site on their iPhone, for example. And Google Slides is great that way because it allows you to actually check that as you're designing a site. So there are lots of accessibility checklists and websites that you can actually take advantage of. So I'm going to go through a bunch of demonstrations. I'm also going to provide some accessibility options, links for you to go to. I'm not going to demonstrate these today. I've done that in previous sessions, but I will provide you the links. And I'll do that towards the end of the session if someone reminds me. Maybe Anita can do that. She's great at reminding me of things that I leave behind. I'm going to show you OCR scanning first in Google Docs, and then I'll pick up my iPad and show you. And I'll also show you how to add alt text behind images and also adding context-based hyperlinks. At the same time, I'll show you how to take that flexible digital text and have it read aloud and offer translation options, all in Google Docs. And if we have time, Immersive Reader, which is built free, a built-in extension. And then we'll do yet another Menti activity. So let me just pull up Google Docs. This is in Google Drive, and I demonstrated this in previous sessions, but it's such a wow moment that I have to share it throughout, because this is technology that you all have access to, which is cross-platform. So this is Google Drive, and what I'm going to show you is I previously took a picture with my iPhone, my back pocket technology, and of the text. When we have a JPEG, it's not an accessible digital format. I can enlarge the text, as everyone knows how to pinch out, but it's not in a format that can be accessible through screen readers, read aloud, etc. But in Google Drive, who would have known, you can actually do this really easily. So I'm just going to select that document. I'm not going to open it. I'm going to click on it, select it, go to the 3 dots up to the right, and I'm going to go to Open With and pull over to Google Docs. And it actually has, again, who would have known this? I learned this in a webinar in the last few months and was blown away. It has a built-in OCR scanner. And what it has just done is scan that image. It gives you the image on top, which is kind of nice. It's kind of a reference. I'm going to use that for a further demonstration in a minute. And there's my OCR scan document, which means I can go in and edit the text. I'm just fixing it a little bit because I have built-in accessibility option on my device, and this is on any device. Command R.
My father's youthful exploits were one many, and the stories told even to this day are beyond counting.
I can also grab a word, and this is what we can do when things are accessible. Thinking about the inaccessibility of this hard copy text, which is a copy of the book page, How He Tamed the Giant from Big Fish. It's not accessible, as we know now, to many students. So we need to digitize it and access all sorts of different built-in accessibility options that we have access to. There's my definition. I can have it read aloud if I want to. I can also very excitingly translate the document right in Google Docs. And here we go. If I have my document, here's the English on top reference, and there's the Arabic down below. I could also have that read aloud. I'm just going to flip back. It actually makes a whole other tab available. I also have built-in add-ons. So add-on, I have a text help study skill feature, so I can highlight and extract. This is not part of Read and Write for Google. This is a built-in add-on that you should have access to in your GNSPAs or your Google Drives. So I can highlight any information, and I can collect those highlights in a new document and make, you know, vocabulary lists, or I can also, you know, who knows, make a study document, sentence starters, etc. Keep in mind too, another add-on I have access to is a speech recognition. I can, let's do voice typing. So I can go to this document and start doing speech to text for formulating responses. So I'm sure you are hopefully aware of this. Built right in it. This is not Read and Write for Google add-on. This is built right into Google Docs and Google Slides, by the way. So please take a look at that again, and I can actually make a copy, download as PDF and plain text, etc. So just one more thing while I'm in here. I know I'm going fast, but I'm very cognizant of time. We have lots to cover. So I'm going to show you how to add alt text behind a picture. So remember, this is for screen readers, individuals who are blind, who are going to be accessing your content. And this is pretty much the same cross-platform, whether you're using an Apple product in Pages, Keynote, etc., or in Google Slides, etc. So I'm going to select that picture. Remember, that's the JPEG of the first page of Big Fish, and I'm just going to right mouse click on the picture that I've selected. And what you're going to do is pull down to alt text. And you don't need a title. That can be distracting for screen readers, but you're going to put a description that actually describes the picture. You're not going to say picture of, because that's redundant. Text of chapter, page 1 maybe. And Lynn, I know I think you're in the session. If you have any tips on designing and putting in appropriate alt text, please share. Grab the mic and share that with us, because it's an art. So text to page 1. So when you're using a screen reader, which is like a built-in accessibility option within Chromebook, which is Chromevox, or on the iPhone or iPad, which is VoiceOver, then that individual can access information on that image that they can't see. It will read aloud. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to show you, which I find super exciting, I'm going to show you 2 things back in the Google Drive, and that is handwriting conversion. So let's just say I don't need to do that. Again, I'm going to click on this document, select it, go up to my 3 dots, open in Google Docs, and this is just a shopping list I scratched out. My handwriting isn't particularly good, but it's again going to OCR scan that picture of my handwriting. And really the accuracy of this really depends upon the handwriting quality. Mine's not great, but it is somewhat clear. And look what I've got here. So again, now I can have it read aloud. I can change the size of the font for enhanced access. I can change the color. I can change the style. I can have it read aloud. I can translate it. This is all accessible education material. So you have this in your back pocket, your capability to do this. There's no reason why it can't be done now, being considerate of all students in your class. Upload to Google Docs or Google Classroom for that matter, and the individual students will access with the tool that's been recommended to them or the tool of choice. While I'm here, I'm just going to show you how to make a hyperlink based on the content, making sense of a hyperlink for a screen reader. So I'm just going to do a search and find a website for, and I'm just doing this super quickly, for zucchini recipe, let's say, for baked Parmesan, but it would more likely be a definition perhaps of zucchini. So here we have the URL that pops up, and I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, and I'm going to go back to my shopping list. Watch carefully. This is important, because if I put this in to the document, then the screen reader is going to read every single letter, and the poor individual listening to that is just going to be drowned out. So I have to, behind this word zucchini or whatever other word that describes the content of the website, I am going to put a hyperlink. So I'm going to select it, go up to the link. It's going to offer me a link box to paste that in and apply. And now when that screen reader reads that, it'll read zucchini. It'll know it's a website. They can click on it if they want to or choose it. And it's not going to read out the entire website URL, which is incredibly annoying, as you can imagine, and distracting. So the other thing I want to show you while I'm here is they talked about the design of the original document that is important for making it accessible. So up to, if you go to normal text, this is where when you come across the information on the AIM website that I'm hoping you visit later, you can specify title, heading, etc. So when that's read by a screen reader, they can flip through the titles easily, just title to title to title, and not necessarily have to go through the entire document. So it gives them a much more organized access to the information. Okay, so that was all sorts of quick tips on how to make accessible education material right within the technology that you have access to. So Nancy, I'll answer your question in a bit, because now what I want to do is just go quickly to my iPad, and hopefully you can see that okay there, because we also have I'm going to show you one of the main scanning apps that we use for iPad, and this is cross-platform as well. So it is a much stronger and powerful OCR scanning app. It's VoiceStream Reader. But the great part about, and VoiceStream Scanner, the great part about this scanner is that it's seamless with VoiceStream Reader. So I'm just taking a picture live right now. You're seeing this in action. And I'm going to hit done. And I'm going to hit, I can have it read aloud.
How he tamed the
now.
giant. Why father's youthful exploit.
But I want to take it into VoiceStream Reader, which I know APSI uses quite a bit for students with visual impairment. We recommend it for all our students with LD. I'm going to go up to the top left-hand corner and open this document in VoiceStream Reader. But watch what happens. Watch what we can do now that this text is digital and malleable and flexible, which we can't do with our hard copy text, right? So I'm going to go up to the A. I'm going to change the font, I think, that make it a little more, let's go to the dyslexia font, but I need to make it a little bigger. So let's go to that. Notice how easily I can modify and adjust the text to make it more accessible. I can change the character spacing, the line spacing. That makes, just those options make a huge difference for students with print-based disabilities. I, of course, can have this read aloud.
But perhaps his most formidable task was facing Carl.
I can also, one of the things I really like about this, I can change the format of what's visually presented to the reader, which keeps students with ADHD. Now this reading activity is multisensory and more engaging, perhaps. Even students with, motor difficulties who have ataxia, for example, reading aloud can track better with these delineating the lines that are available on screen. Keep in mind, I won't go through it all, but I can change all my color settings too, my background color and so on. So that's VoiceStream Scanner, which is a paid app and for iPad, but it's also cross-platform and available on Android devices. And it's also, I think it's software too, but don't quote me on that. One of our most powerful OCR scanning apps and read aloud apps as well. So while I'm here, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. And by the way, I can share my screen in Google Meet, just so you know, but because I have Air Server on my laptop, which is another a software product that can mirror my screen of my laptop. So I just want to show you, and I'll share this link. This is a site that we've developed and are continuing to develop. It's a never-ending project for CLTs, for collaborative learning teams on assistive tech, UDL, and MTSS. But the reason why I'm going here is I'm going to show it to you, but I want to show you Immersive Reader. So again, remember, once we have flexible digital text, I can make it larger, smaller, I can have it read aloud. And this is how you use Immersive Reader, which, by the way, is available to all of you and your students. It's a Chromebook extension, and go get it. Like, you can do it right after I finish. Don't do it yet, because I'm going to show you how to use it. So select the text, and I'm going to right mouse click on that selected text. I am, why isn't it working? Here we go, right mouse click. That's control mouse click with my Mac. Help read this. And here I have the digital pulled out content that I have selected. I can have this read aloud.
Multi-tiered system of supports.
So this is enhanced access to websites. So I can also change the voice settings, rate of speech feedback, again, flexibility. I can change the font to make it more accessible, the background color. Even more colors are available. So grammar options, you can have the read aloud broken down into syllables. Here you can also change the focus. Again, malleable, flexible, accessible text. This is kind of cool. Within, they've coordinated or partnered with board makers. So if let's click on a word. Let's see, school. I click on a noun and and a picture comes up. So think about who that could benefit in terms of enhancing their comprehension of this particular document, website. The other thing I can do is convert to all sorts of different languages on the spot and have it read aloud.
Monitasoinen tukijärjestelmä. MTSS.
Okay, so that is, again, access to websites. So that's Immersive Reader. Go to the Chrome store and go grab it. It's approved for GNESPES all across the province. We did that in the last few months. And we have, it's very popular. So, that's the basics that I mean, there's way more, as you can imagine. I hope that offered you all sorts of information that you might not be aware of, or a refresher for those who might have some background in it already. So what I'd like you to do, actually, you know, people, this is, they did populate, I just didn't use Mentimeter properly. So provide equity, what is AIM, Access for all, great. I'm just going to flip back to Menti as you digest that information a little bit. And we're going to do a little exit activity. And so this is a different Menti, so you'll have to log in again. So bear with me. Kind of fun. There's 3 questions. So this one is go to menti.com and use the code 741513. And which emoji represents how you feel about this presentation? Super excited. I love it. I'm so thrilled you're super excited. And I'm also demonstrating too how to use different tools, as you can see, to really engage your audience. And if you want to pop your answer into the chat box, that's fine too, because we like to practice UDL, or grab the mic and share with us how you're feeling. Okay, you can keep answering those. I'm just going to go to the next slide. Name one thing that blew your mind from this session. You can still log in and feel free to respond in the chat box if you want. You have 3 options to answer this, not just one. I'm answering too, just to populate it. OCR in Google. Google Docs, OCR Scan. I know, it blows my mind too, seriously. Add-ons, there's all sorts. Go look at them. Available also in Google Slides. We're trying to get Google Translator or Slides Translator approved by the province. They like you to use all approved documents. They're researching the privacy of that. Immersive Reader, yes, free. Anita's just texting me, reminding me to put the links to the accessibility options in the chat box before I go. So I'll definitely do that. OCR and Google. Okay, great. 8, informative. I know it was fast. Built-in add-on, great. Let's keep going. Okay, you can keep adding, but how will you use your AIM knowledge with your students in the future? It's not a trick question. I know it takes a little bit of thinking. Angela, we can certainly do that. It's a matter of finding what all the ones that are approved for the province for both teachers and students. Try to use it every day, ensuring all my presentations are accessible. Awesome, that's where we want you to be. We have a couple people, Rebecca and Cindy from Department of Ed. I know you're gonna take the torch and run with it, giving them some independence. All my students need different means to access. This has opened up my options. Oh, that's tremendous. I'm just so excited. And please, by all means, reach out to me at B. Wellsford. I'll put it in the chat box. If you have any questions or comments. I know there's probably more people wanting to respond. Taking time to carefully and intentionally create content. Yes, think your audience. to begin with and get up in the morning thinking universal design and access for all. And that's the mindset we have to really instill in everyone across the province. Okay, this is great. I'm gonna flip out of this and go get those links for you and post them in the chat box. And you'll probably be able to watch me doing that because I have share screen. So this is, these are all the links that relate to this presentation. So the slide deck is available in the top folder, and the AIM website, I've given you a link to the CLT website that we're building, continuing to build. It's very exciting. And let me stop sharing so you can see me. And these are links to Apple's, oh, I missed the Chrome. That's not a subliminal issue. Okay, so Chromebook accessibility options. And on our website under the MTSS link, if you want to take a look, we have lots of video that I've made, and I have a YouTube channel as well that I'm going to be making more of these on accessibility options and how it relates to Tier 1 accessible technology and how it fits into MTSS. Thank you for attending. I hope you enjoyed that, and please reach out to me if you have any more questions at all.